Welcome friends, we are going to be cooking today outside in the wood-fired clay brick oven, and we're going to make a porchetta, or a version of a porchetta. And I say a version because, traditionally this is made with a very large or a full pork belly or an even larger portion of the pig. There's just two of us. I only need a small little bit, a little roast, something for a weeknight with some leftover for sandwiches later. So I'm going to play around with a couple of ideas, and we're going to see how it turns out. So I've got a selection of herbs and spices in front of me. I've got sage. So we're just going to rip off a few sage leaves. A little bit of rosemary. I'm not a huge fan of rosemary, so I don't use quite as much as everybody else does. So I'm just going to strip off some leaves of rosemary and some thyme. And if the thyme is really tender, you can put the stems in as well as the leaves. You don't want the woody parts though. So I've already been out to the wood burning stove. I've got it started, got a fire going, a really low fire because we don't want a whole lot of heat. We just want it around 325 to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And I say around because it is a live fire. You do have to play with it in order to get the temperature right. Okay, so I've got a nice pile of fresh herbs, and I've got some garlic here, and I'm just going to smash that garlic down a little bit. And then I'm going to put it all in a pile and just give it a rough chop before I put it into the mortar and pestle. Okay, this goes into the mortar and pestle. I'm also going to squirt in a little bit of olive oil, throw in some hot red pepper flakes, fennel, black pepper, and some salt. And I'm just going to crush that around. Next, I'm going to zest in 1 lemon and 1 orange. Okay, now on to the pork belly. I've got a fairly small pork belly, and I have already taken the skin off of it. So I've peeled the skin off, and we're going to tie that back on later. And then I have opened up the pork belly so I can get both maximum area for the flavorings and for a little bit of ground pork that I have here that I'm going to put in the middle. So on go the flavorings. You just kind of rub that in, get it everywhere. Okay, so I've also got a little bit of ground pork here. And I like to put ground pork in the middle instead of pork loin, just because I think the extra fat from the ground pork makes the whole thing juicier, moister, more flavorful when it comes out of the oven. So I just mix a little bit of the flavoring mixture into the ground pork, and then press the ground pork into the belly. Okay, all the pork is in, and now you just start to roll it up. Roll it as tightly as you can. And then bring the skin over, put the skin down, and then stretch the skin around the roast. And you might have trouble getting the skin to stretch all the way around. And that's one of the problems with doing a smaller piece of pork belly. You can't always get it to wrap up nicely. So do your best. It'll be okay. Now the next thing is to tie it together so that it will stay really nice in the oven. It will keep its shape. And you just need some butcher twine. I know there are specific butcher knots to do this, but just make it happen. Okay, and we'll put that on a rack on a tray with the full uninterrupted skin side up, and we'll take that out to the oven. Okay, so I've got a fairly low fire going. I've put a little rack inside the oven and I've pushed the fire back to one corner. I'm going to stick the porchetta in there and I've put a temperature probe into it just so that I know when it's cooked. And I'll hook that up to this ThermoWorks dot. Wish us luck. See you in a little while.
So Glenn, the backyard smells pretty good. What have you been doing today?
It does smell pretty good. This is the first porchetta of the new wood-fired oven.
Yes, I see we're still learning the temperature.
Still learning temperature control.
That's okay.
It is hard to learn temperature. So the skin is a little bit charred.
Crispy?
Cajun. Let's call it.
That's not fair to Cajun.
No.
Crispy? I can hear the crunchy.
It's crispy and crunchy. If the temperature had been a little bit lower when I first put it in, we would have been fine.
So temperature the overall or temperature, like, because you still had flames going in the back?
No, the temperature of the dome was a little bit too high.
Okay.
I could have saved it if I had realized quickly enough. I could have put tinfoil over it, which would have saved us a little bit. But let's see. Let's cut it open.
Okay.
Serrated knife is pretty much the only way to get through. Looks pretty good inside, Jules.
It does.
That looks pretty good.
How was the rolling?
The rolling wasn't too bad. You know, the rolling is the easiest part, I think.
Oh, well, in that
Yeah.
case.
Okay. I know you brought a fork, but my fingers are all ready.
I might stick with the fork. It looks great, though. That's... All right. It's kind of big, but I'll commit.
So it's moist and flavorful. And I've had porchetta a few times in the past where it's really dry through the center.
We haven't quite got to the middle, but that I can't imagine it's going to dry out because that
Well-
was fabulous.
And so I used ground pork. Some people put a pork loin through the middle, and there's no fat in that, and so it would be very dry. But this is, I really like this. This would be great this would be great for dinner tonight. But it'd be great on a sandwich tomorrow.
Of course, you're having a sandwich tomorrow. That sounds just like you. An emergency sandwich situation.
Gotta have an emergency sandwich. So this is just sort of a base recipe for flavors. You sort of get a little bit of a smoky note. You don't taste any of the burnt because that's just on
the outside.
on the
'Cause
skin
that was
on
like
the
an
outside.
instant.
And that skin on the outside has protected the skin on the outside has protected the inside from drying out as well.
Yes.
So if you don't have a wood oven, you could do this on your barbecue, certainly on your barbecue.
Yep.
And you could do it in your home oven. But that smoky flavor throughout adds something to it. It really does
That
add
is the
something to it.
advantage of the outside cooking.
Of the outside, yeah.
I think this is going to go great with the asparagus.
Fresh asparagus from the garden. It's going to be fantastic for
Best
dinner.
part of spring.
Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.
Take care.